Hello friends and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Joycey Joy and today in this lecture we will discuss about the present economic slowdown in Indian economy. If you were reading the newspapers these days, there were many news that were talking about the economic slowdown that is currently happening in Indian economy. And I was also getting a lot of messages from you students asking to prepare a lecture on the present economic slowdown in Indian economy. Now, if you remember, last week we have talked about the automobile sales slowdown. We also spoke about the investment slowdown. Now, in this lecture, we will be discussing about the economic slowdown. So here we will be discussing all the major factors that has triggered the economic slowdown presently in the Indian economy. We will see what are the factors that have caused this slowdown and how can we overcome this slowdown, and most importantly we will discuss whether this slowdown is a matter of concern, whether RBI and government need to take urgent steps in this regard. So we will discuss all these in detail in this lecture. So let us begin. Let us first understand what is the current affair. So let us understand the current affair in detail. Now we will see that the Indian economy is going through a economic slowdown. Now here slowdown means that the growth rate is slow. So this is a slowdown in the economic growth, and at present, that is currently Indian economy is going through such a phase of economic slowdown, and it is reflected in automobile sector, especially the demand in the automobile sector has come down, and also there is a slowdown in the growth percentage in the automobile sales, which shows that there is a reduction in the consumption rate and also in the economic growth rate. So again it is visible through the unemployment rates or the number of jobs that are lost in the economy these days. So employment problems or unemployment issues or increasing number of unemployment is also another evidence which showcases the economic slowdown at present in the Indian economy. So in this context, what is required? It is required to boost the economic growth in the economy. So for that reason, structural reasons should be addressed, that is structural issues should be addressed, and also there is a cyclic nature for every business, that is there is a business cycle. There is a boom period as well as a dull period. So now the Indian economy is going through a dull period. So we need to address the cyclical changes and also the structural reforms or the changes that are required that are also needed to be put in place in the economy. So based on this, we will be understanding the economic slowdown in Indian economy in detail. So let us start. First, let us understand what are the key factors that has impacted the economic slowdown in Indian economy at present. First one, the reason is the short run cyclical slowdown. Now here what we need to understand is about the business cycle in an economy. So there is a business cycle in the economy which is like a graph. So this business cycle has got its own ups and downs, and there are boom periods and also dull periods in a business cycle. So now the economy is going through a dull phase, that is a phase where there would be reduction in production, output and also employment generation. So here output, production and employment generated are reduced. So this is the dull period. So this cyclical situation or the cyclical factor is one reason for this economic slowdown in Indian economy, and this dull period in the cyclical nature of business or in the economy has caused a fall in the demand or the aggregate demand in the economy. So when the demand in the economy comes down, what will happen? The supply also will come down. So it indicates that there will be a reduction in the production or in the output. So this is the indication. Now this reduction in demand is showcased or it is highlighted especially in the automobile sector, in the consumer durables, for example, electronic goods like the TV, refrigerators, air conditioners, these are all consumer durables, and also in the housing sector. So these are the three sectors where this slowdown in the demand has been properly reflected. Now, second reason is the fall in demand, and third one is fall in investment and fall in the savings rates. Now we will discuss about the fall in investment and fall in savings rates in detail in this lecture. So I'm not going to the details of this. We will separately discuss both these factors in detail within the lecture itself. So next, let us come to the fixed capital formation or GFCF. So GFCF refers to gross fixed capital formation. Now, what is meant by gross fixed capital formation in an economy? So, gross fixed capital formation in an economy essentially means the investment that has happened in the economy. So, gross capital formation is the gross investment that has happened in the economy, and this investment is in the form of increase in the quantum of fixed capital. So, an addition to the fixed capital or an increase in the fixed capital is what is called gross fixed capital formation, and it happens through the process called investment. Now, gross fixed capital formation includes spending on land, on plants, machineries, equipments, construction of roads, railways, infrastructure, residential dwellings, commercial buildings, industrial buildings, etc. So these examples says that the fixed capital formation or the gross fixed capital formation in an economy has a long-term impact. The benefit of fixed capital formation in an economy lasts in the economy for a long period of time, or its benefits are utilized over a long period of time. Now this is fixed capital formation. Now let us see what is the fixed capital formation scenario in Indian economy. So the gross fixed capital formation relative to the GDP, that is gross domestic product, at current prices. So we know that the GDP is the monetary value of all the goods plus services produced in an economy within a financial year. Now, there are two types of GDP. One is current price and second one is constant price. So constant price refers to base year prices and current price refers to the current year prices. Now, what is the difference? The difference is that GDP at current prices is the GDP or the base year GDP plus the inflation rates. Now at constant prices it is the base year price GDP. So at current prices what is included is the inflation rates. So let us take fixed capital formation as a percentage or as relative to the GDP at current prices. Now if we see since 2011-12 until now, that is till 2019 financial year, there has been a steady fall in the fixed capital formation or in the investments. Now in the last financial year, that is 17-18 financial year, the fall or the decrease in the percentage of fixed capital formation was 5.7%. So now in 2017-18, the investments or the gross fixed capital formation in the economy as relative to the GDP is 28.6%. Now in 2011-12 it was 34.3%. So we see there is a downward trend or a declining trend. It means that there is a reduction in the gross capital formation, and this reduction is steady since 2011-12. Now let us come to ICOR, a very important concept. ICOR refers to incremental capital output ratio. Now why is ICOR used? ICOR is the ratio of investment to growth. So this is the incremental capital to output ratio. So from the name itself, it is very clear that ICOR can be used to measure the efficiency of a business. Now how this efficiency is measured? Now incremental capital, it means that the additional capital that you have added to your business is to growth. That means for every unit of additional capital that you have provided for your business, how much percentage of growth it has produced. That is ICOR, incremental capital output ratio. So the ICOR in Indian economy is 4. So now how is ICOR considered as a measure of efficiency of an economy? When ICOR or the value of ICOR is high, it means that the economy or the business is less efficient. Why? Because when value increases, it means that more and more capital is required in order to produce a smaller amount of growth rate. So we have seen ICOR is basically additional capital divided by growth. So if you add more capital and the growth rate is not proportional, then the value of ICOR will be high. So whenever the value of ICOR is high, it means the business or the economy is not very efficient. The proportion of additional capital that is given and the proportion of the growth that the additional capital has produced is not proportional to each other. So whenever the ICOR value is high, it means the efficiency is less. I hope you have understood this concept. Now let us come to the sectoral trend. Now, when we talk about investment, fixed capital formation necessarily means investment. So, when we are talking about investment, there are three types of investments. First one is household sector investment. Now, second one is private investment or the corporate investment, and the third one is public investment or the government investment. Now, let us first talk about the household investment. The fall in the household investment rate is almost by 6.3%, and there is a steady decline in the investment made by the household sector. Now let us come to private sector or the corporate sector. Here we will see that it is in contrast to the housing sector or household sector. This is because in the private sector or in the private corporate sector, since 2015-16, there is no fall in investments. Now, when we come to public sector, that is the government investment, there is a fall by 0.3 percentage points. Now, when we compare these three sectors, the biggest fall in the investment rate is within the household sector. Second one is public sector. So, comparatively, the performance of the private sector or the corporate sector is better compared to housing sector and the public sector. Now, let us come to savings. This is another important factor that influences the economic growth rate. Now let us come to savings, and before that we need to understand the cycle of savings or the vicious cycle of savings. Now the cycle starts with savings. This is when corporate sector or household sector or the government saves money within financial institutions or other formal financial resources in order to pool money. So this is the first step where savings happens. So this savings will be utilized in order to provide loans or credit. Now this credit will be availed by business units or by investors or by the public or the private sector. So these loans and credit will be used in order to make investments, especially fixed capital investments. So long-term investments can be made. And using this investments, what will happen? The output or the productivity will increase. Also, a lot of employment generation will take place. So, output and employment generation will increase. And as a result of this, what will happen? Economic growth increases. The growth rate of the economy increases. So, this is the vicious circle which starts with savings. So, when you have understood this cycle, it is very clear that savings is where this vicious circle starts and the role of savings in boosting the economic growth rate. Now, we need to understand what is the current scenario of savings in Indian economy. So, the gross domestic savings compared to 2011-12 in 2017-18 has fallen by 4.1 percentage points. So, if we compare the gross domestic savings as a percentage of GDP, that is savings as a percentage of GDP in 2011-12 was 34.6%. In 2017-18 financial year, it has become 30.6%. So, the savings rate has also come down. Now, what is more important here is that the fall is entirely due to the household sector. So, earlier we have seen that there are three major sectors. First one is household sector, second one is private sector, third one is public sector or government sector. Now, these three sectors are the major contributors of investment as well as savings. Now, in case of investment, we have seen in the household sector is the biggest fall in investment rate. Now, here also the savings rate has fallen down by 4.1% and it entirely happened because of the household sector. It means there was a huge fall in the savings by the household sector, and the private sector and the public sector, that is the government sector, has not shown any fall in the savings rate. It is entirely due to the household sector. Now, if we talk about the private sector, there is an increase in the savings rates by 2.2%, whereas in the public sector or in the government sector, there has been an increase by 0.2%. So, the fall by 4.1% is entirely or completely due to the fall in the savings rate by the household sector. Now, if we talk about the implications of a fall in the savings rate, it is directly visible in the investment. So, there will be a fall in the investment. For that, let us come back to the cycle. This is because the cycle begins with savings, and then the second step is availing of credit and loans. Now, the third step is investments. So, whenever there is a fall in the savings, this will be directly reflected in the investments. Thereby, the output and the employment generation will come down. Now, let us come to the priority of the government. What should be the key priorities of the government? Let us understand that. First one, the government should definitely focus on increasing the growth rate. And for that, additional demand should be created, and also structural reforms should be taken. So, structural reforms here means the potential for growth should be increased. Now, these includes more investment or additional public sector investment. That is, the government investment should increase. But at the same time, the government should make sure that the fiscal deficit of the government will not increase much. So, by taking care of the fiscal deficit itself, government should be able to channelize more money for investment from public sources. So, in order to manage the expenditure of the government can try to disinvestment the PSUs, that is public sector undertakings, and also government should make sure that the money the government uses or the expenditure that is made by the government is for capital or fixed capital. That is, the expenditure should be having a nature of capital expenditure, not revenue expenditure. It means this will give long-term benefits to the government. So, additional public sector investment is required. For that, government should take care of its fiscal deficit and also its fiscal consolidation policies. Also, disinvestment can be an option for the government, and it should make sure the expenditures are incurred for the purchase of fixed assets. Now, when we talk about the structural reforms, government should hold to the FRBMA, that is to reduce the fiscal deficit. Now, the revenue deficit should also be made to zero. Now, what is meant by fiscal deficit and revenue deficit? Revenue deficit is the excess of revenue expenditure over revenue receipts. So, this is a revenue deficit. Now, fiscal deficit means the total borrowings of the government, that is the total expenditure minus total revenue will give the borrowings. So, whatever money the government need to borrow, this is indicated through a fiscal deficit. Now, the fiscal deficit will give an idea how much money the government has to borrow. So, the fiscal deficit should be consolidated, and secondly, the revenue deficit should be made to zero. It means the government should not borrow money to meet revenue expenditure. So, these are the structural reforms that the government should take, and undoubtedly, government should give a priority for economic growth. And government should also take care that the economic growth slowdown will not lead into a recession in the economy. You can find the PDF of this lecture on our website www.studyiq.com. You can also follow my Facebook page for more video updates. You can write to me at joyce.studyiq@gmail.com for any of your queries and clarifications. Thank you.